Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Jack and Jack. I guess that's our official title, as we've kind of taken a little bit of a hiatus. We haven't been able to bring you anything for a couple of months just because of our busy schedules. But let's welcome back the star of the show, Mr. Jack MacArthur.
I have to wait for the applause to conclude. I appreciate it, Jackson. I'm happy to be back on the show. Let's get into it.
And Jack, I just want to give you a real shout out here real quick, because last time we recorded, it was conference championship week. We gave our predictions. I do believe I haven't gone back and looked to see. I think because we had pretty much all similar picks except for two. I think we went against each other in like the Sun Belt and also the Big Ten, because you had Oregon and I had Penn State. And of course, we all know how those turned out. But Jack, I want to give you a shout out because I posted on my Instagram story what people think the final score of the championship between Ohio State and Notre Dame would be, and you replied saying it would be 34-24 in favor of Ohio State, and of course we all know the final score was 34-23, so you were just 1 point from being perfect. How are you that accurate?
Well, you know me. I've been a big sports guy my whole life. I guess it's just the luck of the draw, as they say. I guess I just have the skills. I got, the crystal ball, as they say. So I don't know what it was that day, but I was feeling that score. And, as you mentioned, I was only off by 1 point. But maybe one of these days I'll get the exact score right for a game.
Well, we'll see, because we got some big sports coming up, of course. College football has wrapped up. The NFL has wrapped up. So kind of shifting away from football for right now, because that won't return to us until actually about a month or so from now, when we have the UFL, depending on who all is going to be watching that. But we might have to talk a little bit of some UFL. Of course, my Seattle Sea Dragons no longer a team in that league, so I really have no rooting interest. But Jack, I want to get into some of the key sports that are going on right now. Of course, college basketball, the NBA, the NHL. And I want to start with what we've had transpire this week. And I'll start in college football. A few days ago, Michigan State was playing against Maryland. And, well, I'll just let Jason Horowitz and Robbie Hummel tell you how it ended.
Gillespie for three. Goal or no. Holloman looks the clock. Half court for the win. Oh my goodness. Holloman from half court to win it on the road.
So the buzzer beater there from Michigan State to beat Maryland on the road. That was a few days ago. And then, Jack, last night we had another one, because it was on the other side of the... What is is it the Great Lakes state of Michigan? The Wolverines had one of their own, and here is the call of that one.
Finds Wolf to Burnett for the win.
So that was Paul Burmeister and Jalen Rose on Peacock. And then, just when you think that would be it, Jack, we had one also last night from one of the great shooters in the NBA, Steph Curry.
That just typified the whole half. Steph from three-quarter court. Curry hits a three from beyond midcourt to end the half.
So quite a week that we've had in the game of basketball, Jack. And of course, we have conference championships coming up here in a matter of weeks. We have the NCAA, both the men's and the women's tournament, starting here in a little less than a month. Kind of getting down to the end of the college basketball season. We'll kind of revisit the NBA after this, but starting with college basketball, Jack, just the way that things have been transpiring down the season, what teams have you been focusing on mostly, and what teams you think might make a far run in the tournament?
Well, I think it's got to be Duke. Cooper Flagg's been playing out of his mind. Duke right now, they're on a 5-game win streak, overall record of 25-3, and in conference they've only had one loss. They're 16-1 in the conference. I also got my eye on Clemson and Louisville. Those teams also have some pretty big win streaks. Clemson's riding a 5-game win streak. Louisville's on a tear. They're on a 6-game win streak. I mean, if you look at the Atlantic Coast Conference in the standings, top 3 teams, Duke, Clemson, and Louisville, those all teams should all make a big run. I think that my Oregon Ducks, I think that they should make the March Madness tourney. I don't think they're ranked right now, but they've been, winning more recently. But I think that Duke is definitely going to make a big run. What do you think?
Well, Jack, as a West Coaster, I always tend to keep track of how Gonzaga's doing because it seems like they always make a far run in the tournament, though they can never get over the hump and never win it all. Of course, they came close the year after COVID when they lost to, I believe it was Baylor, who defeated them in the national championship, and since then they've been eliminated prior to the Final Four. I always like to see Gonzaga go far, and of course, like you said, with Oregon, I'm rooting for my Oregon State Beavers. I'm not sure if they're going to make the field. They are 20-10 right now, I believe. They just lost the other night to San Francisco on a reverse buzzer beater, I should say, as Oregon State did make a shot at the buzzer that would have won it, but unfortunately, after review, the basketball was still in the shooter's hands at 0-0, so unfortunately, it was reversed and the shot did not count. But looking, I want to touch on this real quick, Jack. Looking at the WCC, where of course Oregon State and Washington State play now because of the conference realignments, and there is no Pac-12 until next season. But just looking at the WCC, because usually it's always Gonzaga and it's always St. Mary's. Taking a look at the standings right now in the WCC, it looks like the St. Mary's Gales are in first place, followed by Gonzaga, and I believe St. Mary's only loss in the conference is to Gonzaga. Have to take a look at their schedule. Oregon State right now is 5th in the conference, but of course I know probably only the winner of that conference will make the tournament with that automatic bid. Of course, the NCAA doesn't really see that as a big power conference, so of course I don't believe Oregon State might make the field. I do have to agree with you on the point that Oregon might make the field too, especially if they make a deep run in the Big Ten tournament, because the Big Ten is obviously one of the biggest conferences in both college football and college basketball. Of course, you have Ohio State, Michigan State, those teams as well, Wisconsin. And whoever wins the Big Ten tournament, I think, is probably going to be... I don't think the winner of the Big Ten tournament is going to necessarily be a number 1 seed, depending on what record they have, but I do believe they would be within the top 5 of whatever region they're in. Of course, I think the number 1 overall seed right now, Jack, is Auburn, if I'm correct. I think the SEC has 3 of the top 5 in college basketball right now.
Yeah, according to this in the WCC, St. Mary's and San Francisco are 1 and 2, and then Gonzaga not far behind with a record of 22-8, and they're 13-4 in conference. So Gonzaga, they should be able to make the tourney, but we will see. And then if you look at the overall rankings, real quick, it says Auburn 1 with a record of 26-2, Duke number 2. Not surprisingly, 25-3 and both of those teams, Auburn and Duke, both have 5-game win streaks. Florida, 3rd seed, Houston 4, Tennessee 5. Michigan State's also in that top 10. So yeah, I do think the Ducks, they should really make the tourney. I mean, recently they've been winning a lot more and playing better basketball, but I think that Duke is probably the overall favorite to win the March Madness tourney.
Yeah, I think Duke can make a run. I agree with you there. I also think Auburn is going to have a great chance. Of course, that'll make Charles Barkley happy. And Alabama, I have to go with those teams in the SEC that have been playing strong so far. I mean, to be honest, I haven't watched too much college basketball in the recent days, but I know that Auburn and Alabama kind of lead that conference. Of course, another big contester there is Texas, I believe, or I don't remember if it's Texas or if it's Tennessee. It's one of those teams that starts with a T. I believe it is
Tennessee. They're the 5th seed right now. Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, I think once the bracket comes out and we see what the matchups are, I think we'll be able to do a very decent job in picking our games and not getting a lot wrong, because I feel like this is one of those years where I don't feel like we might see a lot of upsets in the tournament, Jack, but you never know, and something crazy always happens every year, so we'll see in a matter of weeks. Sunday, March 16th is Selection Sunday, so we'll find out the bracket and we'll have to give our picks before the opening round begins on that Tuesday and Wednesday. But kind of shifting towards pro basketball, Jack, I know you are more of a NBA guy than an NHL guy. I just want to ask you if you watched any of the NBA All-Star Weekend.
Yeah, I was watching the NBA All-Star Weekend. I thought that the new format was intriguing. It was pretty interesting, but my take on it is I actually like the original West versus East format. That was just an exceptional time in basketball history when you would just have like West versus East. It was just so classic. Now they're making it complicated with these new, formats. What do you think about the new format?
Well, I have to say one thing, and I might be in the minority on this, Jack, but one thing that I really like about the All-Star game is that there's no clock. I like having the target score. Now, I didn't really like that it was set at 40. I don't really know what the significance was of that. I think it should have been higher because, of course, these are all-stars and they can score 40 points in no matter of time. And I read something after the All-Star weekend, Jack. The longest game of the All-Star weekend was only 11 minutes. So not even a quarter length in NBA time. Having that target score of 40, I like not having the clock and having a goal to shoot at. I just don't like it being that low at 40. I think having, even a few years ago when we had the first 3 quarters that were timed and then the timeless fourth quarter where they added 24 to the leading team's score just because, of course, 24 was Kobe Bryant's number and it was a tribute to him. That, I think, seemed to work out better than what we had this year. And I know a lot of people took problems with what the NBA All-Star game was this year. I only watched the games on Sunday. I didn't watch any of the festivities on Friday or Saturday night. I did kind of look at a couple of different highlights from the celebrity game. By the way, I knew 0 celebrities that were playing in that game, as it seems to be that case now, as they get these kind of they're quote unquote celebrities, but I guarantee I'm not the only person that does not know most of them. So it's always interesting to see who makes the celebrity roster, but it always kind of disappoints to find out that it's really nobody you know.
Yeah, I was looking at the rosters. We got Drewski, Noah Kahan, Shabuzi, Terrell Owens, Shelby McEwen, Rome Flynn. Okay, we got Danny Ramirez, Oliver Stark. I think I know about a third of these people. Also, they got streamers now. So you got Kai Cenat. Let's see who else we got here. And for the coaches, we got 2 Chainz, Jerry Rice, Barry Bonds, and influencer Khaby Lame. Actually, I know all the coaches, actually. I mean, who doesn't know Jerry Rice and Barry Bonds? 2 Chainz, legendary rapper as well. But, yeah, Khaby Lame, he's an influencer. But, yeah, no, I do think that, the celebrity game is always fun to watch, but I didn't get a chance to watch the celebrity game. I just know for a fact that I only knew about, like, a third of the players playing in it, maybe half.
I did like the way it went with having the championship be Charles Barkley's team against Shaq's team. Kind of what everyone wanted. I also liked the teams of Kenny Smith, Candace Parker, and just the way that they drafted their teams. I know one of them was made up of like older players, and then you had the younger generation, and then you had an international team. That was very intriguing, but I have to agree with what most people said about how long it was. I didn't really care for the games to end in a matter of about 10 minutes. But I did like the little tribute that they paid homage to all 4 guys, of course, Ernie Johnson, Kenny Smith. Very nice. And
you cut out for a second.
Oh. That's my bad. Sorry, I must have done something there.
No, you're good.
What I did say, I like the tribute that they had to Charles Barkley, Shaq, Ernie Johnson, Kenny Smith, and giving them fishing poles and like jerseys and plaques and all that. That was a nice little tribute from Kevin Hart, although a lot of people seem to have an issue with that. So apparently a lot of people don't have hearts. That's obviously the case because they didn't care for that tribute.
Yeah, a lot of people just got no heart. Shout out Nate Robinson, heart over height. What is he, like 5'6"? And he was, one of the best dunkers that the NBA has seen. I mean, Nate Robinson, he was dunking over. I think he dunked over Shaq, right? Like a long time ago. But
I did see that Mac McClung won the dunk contest for the third year in a row. So of course the Kansas City Chiefs unable to three-peat, but Matt McClung does. Jack, I want to switch over real quick to another quote-unquote, not necessarily, they did not label this as an all-star game, but by sure it looked like one. The Four Nations for the NHL, when Team USA, Team Canada, Finland, Sweden, that was fantastic. A lot of people had great things to say about that. The tournament format with just those four teams playing the first couple of games in Montreal and then moving the other games and the championship to Boston. And of course, it made a whole lot of sense to have Canada and USA in the championship. Of course, they excelled in their round robin games. I know the U.S. Technically, they swept the round robin, even though they lost to Sweden, but they had already made the championship game, so they were not playing anybody against that game versus Sweden. Had they probably would have beaten Sweden and sweep the round robin. And of course, once everyone found out that Canada would meet U.S. in the finals, they anticipated the ratings for that to be through the roof, and by God, there were, because there were over 11 million viewers on ESPN at one point for that championship game about a week and a half ago. But I just have to say, I know you're not much for hockey, Jack, but that was a great tournament.
Yeah, honestly, I got to watch a little bit of the tourney. I just know for a fact that McDavid had a goal in that championship game, and Canada ultimately got the victory. But, as you mentioned, it is Canada against USA, so it is expected to have a exceptionally large amount of views. So I would say, yeah, it makes sense why they have a large amount of views, enormous amount of views. But yeah, no, it was a good tournament. I wasn't able to watch all of the games, but I watched one or two of them.
And Jack, you mentioned that Connor McDavid had scored a goal against Team USA in the championship game. It was the golden goal that won for Canada, and here's the call.
Regular season, but he won 12 out of 14 in their opener, and he won that one and got a shot off. Centering pass, McDavid scores! Connor McDavid wins it for Canada! And Jordan Binnington has done it again inside the TD Garden.
Sean McDonough with the call for ESPN, and you heard him there. Jordan Binnington did it again against the fans at TD Garden. What that, of course, references is when he was on the St. Louis Blues team that defeated Boston in the Stanley Cup final back in 2019. He completely shut them down in Game 7 in that building. He did it again in the championship game, allowing Canada to capture the title. That was a very intense game, Jack. Of course, that was in overtime. That was a game that deserved to go to overtime. All the games were fantastic. I tried to watch all the games. I missed one, though, because of another thing that I had going on here. And I believe that was the game USA against Finland, so I was not able to see that one, but I did see the highlights from that, and that was a dominant 6-1 United States win. So just reflecting on the Four Nations tournament, I thought it was fantastic. And Jack, we're only a couple months away from the Stanley Cup playoffs getting underway. I want to ask you right now, before we kind of shift back, and I want to ask you this again about the NBA, but first, as we are still sticking with the NHL, is there a team you think can make a deep run in the Stanley Cup playoffs?
I mean, me personally, I would say it's probably going to be like the Golden Knights, just because overall they have one of the best records in the league. I also think that the Oilers, they're a solid team. I mean, they were in the championship last year and lost. So, right. So, I think that they could be back.
One team that I think has a chance, and there's a very specific reason why, and it was something I found on X, and I'll explain why, but I do believe this team will make a deep run just because of one of their players trying to overtake another player. And, of course, what I'm talking about is Alex Ovechkin trying to catch up to Wayne Gretzky's all-time goal record of 894. Right now, Alex Ovechkin is at 883, so he's 11 away from tying the record. He's 12 away from breaking the record. We do still have a couple of months left here in the regular season, and Washington is in first place in the Metropolitan Division, so they are likely to make the playoffs as well. So I do think that there is no doubt Alex Ovechkin breaks the record this season unless somehow he gets injured again, and that takes him out for the season. But I think Washington is one of those teams that will make a deep run, and of course, one of the things that I support with the post that I saw on XJack is the last time the Washington Capitals won the Stanley Cup was in 2018, where they beat the Vegas Golden Knights. 4 months prior to the Stanley Cup, the Philadelphia Eagles won the Super Bowl. And who, of course, won the Super Bowl this year, Jack?
The Eagles.
The Eagles beat the Chiefs. So 4 months later, we could possibly see the Capitals again winning the Stanley Cup. I do believe that Washington can make a deep run. Now, in the West, I do believe Edmonton is one of those teams. Dallas is always one of those teams. Colorado, you could never count out the prior Stanley Cup champions back in the East, the Florida Panthers, Boston, Pittsburgh. Those teams, it's going to be an interesting field once we see the brackets set and we make our predictions in early April of who we think will win the Stanley Cup. Certainly going to be interesting. Now, shifting back here as time is running short on us here, Jack, back to the NBA. I need you to answer this first because I need a little bit of time to think about my answer, but who do you think in the NBA can make a deep run as we are winding down the stretch of the season and just a couple months away from the playoffs beginning there?
It's got to be the Bucks. Even though the Bucks just made a shocking trade and they got Kyle Kuzma, out of all people, the Bucks elected to trade for Kyle Kuzma after shipping off Chris Middleton to the Wizards back into DC. I think that the Jimmy Butler trade kind of shook the NBA. Butler to the Warriors, that was definitely unexpected. But I'll say the Warriors can make a deep run after that Steph Curry 56 ball. It's second most points he's scored in his NBA career, I believe. His career high is 62 against my Blazers in 2021. But I'll say the Bucks. I think that they'll figure it out. I'm surprised the Bucks didn't try to trade for Jimmy Butler, though. They probably could have gotten more than Kyle Kuzma for Chris Middleton, but you never know. Kuzma's a shooter. He's not the best defender, but I think that he could still help him out a lot to spread the floor for the Bucks. The Sixers are disastrous. They're definitely not going to be good for a while because Embiid's out for the season and they're on a 9-game losing streak. But I'll say real quick, the Bucks and the Knicks could make a deep run. Those are kind of sleepers. A lot of people just think it's going to be the Celtics or the Cavs, but I really think the Knicks or the Bucks could do it. Then in the West, I think it's probably going to be the way the Clippers have been playing. Norman Powell's been playing well. Harden's been decent. I think that it'll be Warriors and Clippers are sleepers, but I also like the Nuggets in the West. I think the Nuggets, Christian Brown's been playing well. Jokic is playing well. Murray just dropped like 55 on the Blazers. Of course, it's always the Blazers, right? Jamal Murray been doing well. So I think that the Nuggets could win it all and maybe the Bucks. What do you think?
I'll give you my thoughts here, Jack, but first I want to ask, because you brought up some interesting trades in the NBA. We had one not too long ago that kind of shocked everybody. Of course, Dallas trading Luka Doncic to Los Angeles for Anthony Davis and a couple of future picks. Just your thoughts on Luka going to the Lakers, AD going to the Mavs. That's just weird.
I know we haven't had a chance to talk about that yet on this pod, but it really is the elephant in the room. I completely forgot about that trade. Yeah, that Luka trade is just unimaginable.
And the Lakers and the Mavs just played each other the other night in Los Angeles. Luka had a triple-double against his former team, and the Lakers, I believe, won that game by 8. Was a very interesting game. But just the way that things have transpired since that trade, Jack, I didn't mean to interrupt you. You can continue.
No, you're good. I think that, Luka's been playing well, 21. I mean, he hasn't been scoring a ton, but he's been doing other things. He dropped 21 last game, 6 for 20, struggling shooting the ball, 1 for 9 from 3, had off game shooting the basketball, but he still had 13 boards, 5 assists. Against the Mavs, as you mentioned, a triple-double. But you also got to give him credit for 3 steals and 2 blocks. Okay, in 35 minutes, he had 19 points. He shot 1 for 7 from 3, but that doesn't matter because he had 15 rebounds, 12 assists, 3 steals, and 2 rejections. And then he dropped 32, 10, and 7 against the Nuggets on February 22nd. So, yeah, that trade happened about a month ago. Yeah, I think that really did shake the world. I did not expect that at all. I don't know what the Mavs were thinking, just blowing it up. Like, yeah, let's just trade a guy that took us to the NBA Finals last year. And why would you ever do that? I mean, it's just not a good idea. But yeah, I'm kind of scared for the future of the NBA now because I think Luka and the Lakers, man, they're going to be really good in like 2 or 3 years.
And what is it with these Los Angeles teams getting all these good players, Jack? I mean, they're just kind of getting stacked up. The Lakers, the Dodgers. I mean, it's just crazy out there.
Yeah, it's unreal. I mean, I did not think that in like a million years would the Lakers get Luka Doncic out of all the teams, I mean, LeBron probably going to retire in 2 or 3 years. Maybe he'll play till he's 45. You never really know. Probably going to retire in about 3 years max, though. I mean, I don't think the Lakers are going to win it all this year. I think it's probably going to be the Nuggets, the Cavs, Celtics, or the Bucks, but maybe even the Thunder, the way the Shea's been playing. But I do think that, Luka's been balling, and the Lakers are a team to watch in these next few years for sure.
So I have a couple of teams that I think might make a deep run. I'm going to go with a little bit of a wild card here in the East. I don't remember the last time they were in the NBA Finals, but I think the last time they were in the NBA Finals, they won. Out of the East, they right now are the 8th seed. I'm going to go with the Miami Heat. I think they are kind of an underrated team. I think they can shock a lot of people. I think a lot of this hype for the teams like Cleveland, Boston, the Knicks, it's just kind of, I don't know. It doesn't seem like it will cash out. I'm going to go with one of those underdog teams. Of course, my dad's from Michigan, so the Pistons I always want to root for, but, I don't think it's ever going to happen with them. I do agree with you that the Bucks are another one of those teams that will make a deep run. Looking here, the Pacers in that top 5. Chicago Bulls right now just in the mix at that last playoff spot. The
Bulls just traded Levine though, so no more Levine for them.
Yeah, I don't think the Bulls will win it. I'm just saying,
Yeah, you never know.
I am a Blackhawks fan, so I have some Chicago bias. In the West, OKC is the number 1 seed in the West. I think it's probably going to be them against, like you said, maybe the Nuggets is one of those teams that people count out, but, they can, make a run here. Of course, you have the Clippers and the Lakers, both Los Angeles teams in the playoff field right now. Golden State Warriors, of course, Steph Curry, I can't count him out. So I think those are just a couple of teams that I would keep an eye on as we go forward, assuming that they can hold their positions and make the playoffs. If the playoffs started now, Jack, I just want to read you some potential series matchups. If the playoffs started right now in the East, you would have the Cleveland Cavaliers against the winner of the first play-in game, the 7-10, which is Orlando against Chicago. It would be the 8-9 matchup, I guess, right? It would be Miami versus Atlanta. Then you would have the Boston Celtics against the 7-10 winner, which is Orlando and Chicago. And then the other series, you would have 3-6. That would be the Knicks and the Pistons, and 4-5, which would be the Pacers and the Bucks.
Yeah, definitely some interesting matchups. You also got to give credit real quick. I know you talked about the Pistons. Malik Beasley's been cooking recently. He went 6 for 11 from 3, 26 points, 5 boards, 2 assists, a steal, and a block in 22 minutes against the Celtics. The Pistons, they're on an 8-game win streak.
Let's go, Detroit. In the West, your playoff series would be Oklahoma City against the winner of the play-in between Minnesota and Dallas. Memphis would be playing the winner of Golden State, Sacramento. The other series would be Denver against the Los Angeles Clippers and the Lakers against the Rockets.
Yeah, Denver against the Clippers. I'd probably take Denver in 6 or 7. I would take probably the Thunder. I would take, what was the other one? Grizzlies against who?
Grizzlies against the winner of Golden State, Sacramento.
I'd probably take Warriors over the Kings, and then I'd probably take the Warriors over the Grizzlies. I think the Grizzlies are a decent team, but, Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler, once they figure it out come playoff time, they got that experience. Steph Curry, he is 37 years old, was drafted a long time ago, been in the league for a minute, but I do think that the Warriors are one of those teams that once they get it, figured out and get that team chemistry down, they could also make a deep run.
Real quick, I want to shift back to hockey real quick. I did not list these potential. If the Stanley Cup playoffs started today in the East, you would have Washington against Columbus, Florida against Detroit, Toronto against Tampa Bay, and Carolina against New Jersey. And in the West, you would have Winnipeg against Vancouver, Vegas against Colorado, Dallas against Minnesota, and for the 4th consecutive season, in the first round, we could get Edmonton and Los Angeles.
Yeah, I think that this year it's probably going to be either the Edmonton Oilers or the Caps that are going to win it all because, as you mentioned, Ovechkin's been balling. I mean, Connor McDavid, he's been cooking as well. I think that, like I said, the Oilers are really coming for vengeance after losing in 7 in the Stanley Cup.
And you also got to remember, Jack, they were down 0-3. The Panthers won the first 3 games of the Stanley Cup final. Edmonton won games 4, 5, and 6 to force a 7th game. So you better believe they were trying to bring it in game 7. Unfortunately, fell short. So they might have a little bit of a grudge on their shoulder.
Yeah, they definitely are looking for some vengeance, and they got to be extra salty after winning 3 games in a row and then losing in game 7. I can only imagine what kind of pain that could bring to a franchise, yet alone a family of, a player on that Edmonton team. I mean, if I was on the Edmonton team and I had won games 4, 5, and 6, and then you lose in 7, those 3 games in a row really just don't mean anything.
Jack, what do you think hurts more? Getting swept or going down 0-3, winning 3 to force a 7th, and then losing in the 7th?
I think it's got to be losing in the 7th because if you get swept, you just know you're out. Versus if you make it all the way to a game 7 after trailing 3-0, and you're like, okay, I'm down 3-0. I'm going to win games 4, 5, and 6, and you get to that championship.
You have all the momentum. You see, it seems like you have all the momentum.
Yeah, all the momentum, and then you get to that game 7, and it's just a heartbreaking loss. I think that's got to sting more.
Well, we'll see. The Stanley Cup and NBA playoffs won't start for a little bit longer. We still have a couple months left in both of those seasons. Of course, college basketball is going to be doing their conference championships here pretty soon. We'll know the field of 68 for the NCAA women's and men's tournament. Jack, is there anything more you'd like to add before we end this episode today?
Yeah, one last thing I think that we should discuss. Okay, 2 things. First thing is Victor Wembanyama out for the rest of the season. That's pretty shocking news. I don't know if you saw that, but I think he had like a blood clot. So first of all, I want to get your thoughts on that, and then I want to touch on one last thing.
All right, well, you know me, I follow more of the NHL than the NBA, and I don't really know. I'm going to take a look here real quick at the NBA standings again just to see where the Spurs are. I don't remember naming them, so they're not in the playoff field right now, but if they have a chance, maybe. Let's see how many games they are behind. They are they're 20.
Yeah.
They're 22 and a half games behind. I don't think. Are there even 20 games left in the season? I don't.
I think that there are about. So we're about 60 games left, or 60 games into the season. So there's about 22 to 23 games left in the season. I guess the main reason why I brought up this Wembanyama injury is just because he was having a phenomenal season.
I should say, Jack, right now they are 24-33, so they played 57 games, which means they have 25 to go.
Yeah. And also I was going to mention Wembanyama, even though the Spurs were kind of out of contention, they did just get De'Aaron Fox and, Chris Paul. He's near the end of his career. He's got a couple of seasons left probably.
The Spurs are right behind our Blazers.
Right behind the Blazers, yeah. What I was going to say is the Spurs, they haven't had the best season, but Wembanyama, he's averaging 3.8 blocks a game per contest, 3.8 blocks, 47% from the field, 24 points, 3 assists, 11 rebounds, and almost 4 blocks a game, shooting 84% from the free throw line. Like, that's just absurd. Almost 4 blocks a game is gross. So he was a defensive player of the year favorite. So that's a big hit for the Spurs. But yeah, other thing I was going to mention is, real quick, do you think it's going to be Shea or Jokic that wins the MVP? Because it could be someone else. There's a couple other sleepers in the mix, but people are saying it's either going to be Shea or Jokic. But I really think it should be Jokic personally.
You think Shaedon Sharpe will win the MVP?
No, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander.
Oh, sorry. I'm like I was trying to figure out who Shea was. SGA, he's on the Thunder, right?
Right.
And who was the other one?
Nikola Jokic.
I don't remember. Did they do the MVP before or after the playoffs?
I want to say they do it after the playoffs, but I can look it up. Do they do?
Because I know usually wherever they land in the playoffs usually doesn't affect their standing of where the MVP vote comes in.
It says that they it says that they vote on the MVP before the playoffs and the results are not announced. Weird. I don't know if I can even see it on
Okay,
here.
yeah, so the votes are closed before the playoffs even begin, so it doesn't matter where they will end in the playoffs. I think it will come down to who's the higher seed between Oklahoma City and Denver. Of course, I'm not really an expert on the NBA. I'm gonna say right now, you think it's gonna be Jokic?
Yeah.
I'm gonna say it's gonna be SGA. I'm gonna say the Thunder remain as the 1 seed going into the playoffs. Of course, I think didn't the Thunder win the in-season tournament?
I think that it was the Bucks.
Oh, did they beat the Thunder? Because I thought the Thunder made a pretty deep run in that tournament.
It says that in the end. I think that the Bucks won the in-season tourney. It says that.
Or sorry, it wasn't the in-season tournament this year. It was what was it called? The Emirates Cup or whatever? The NBA
I don't even know
Emirates NBA Cup, I think.
Yeah, I think that. Let's see. It said the Bucks beat the Thunder 97-81 in the NBA 2024-25 Cup. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna go SGA. I'm gonna go opposite of you. We'll see. I don't really know that. I'm gonna be honest. I wouldn't be surprised if it's honestly someone completely different either.
Yeah, last thing I'll say real quick is this season Jokic is averaging 29 points a game, 58% from the field, 44% from 3, which is a career high for him, 12.6 boards, 10.5 assists, and 2 steals a game. And if you look at the stats, he's literally averaging a triple-double. And Jokic has won 3 MVPs in his career. And previously, when he has won the MVP, he didn't actually average a true triple-double. But now he's averaging, like I said, 29 points a game, 10.5 assists, and 12.5 boards while shooting almost 45% from 3, which is unreal. And then you look at SGA, which is pretty good stats as well. 32 points a game, 36% from 3, 5 boards, 6 assists, and 2 steals. But I think right now you got to give it to Jokic.
I'm gonna change my vote. I'm gonna agree.
He's been torching people on the court.
I'm gonna agree with you. I'm gonna change my vote. It's gonna be Jokic.
I mean, when's the last time you've seen a center average a triple-double when shooting the ball more than 40% from 3? That's just unearthly. That's just unreal. But we'll see.
What about Michael Jordan?
Michael Jordan, you're saying if he's ever averaged a triple-double?
Or wait, Michael Jordan was a point guard, wasn't he?
Oh, you're talking about I guess Shaq never really averaged a triple-double. But,
was Shaq a center?
Yeah, Shaq was a true center. But I would say Kareem was more of a power forward.
Shaq is one of those guys where people will say he's a better analyst than player.
Yeah, it's just like, but these Jokic stats are unreal, man. 29 points a game, 58% from the field, 44% from three. Dude, think about it this way. Jokic, last thing I'll say, Jokic is shooting the three ball better than most point guards. Like,
Jack, I do have one more thing here. It'll only take another minute, but another sport that's going on right now, I think their season just started not too long ago, but Major League Soccer has made its return. And I'm trying to check on the standings there.
Timbers just got smoked.
The Timbers play Austin on Saturday, so tomorrow at 7:30 at Providence Park.
Yep.
Seattle plays Salt Lake. Let's take a look at the soccer standings starting in the West. If it will tell me, I don't think it will. Timbers are 0-1, and Austin is 1-0.
Dang. Yeah, no, I do think that it should be an interesting season. You still got Lionel Messi in the MLS.
Inter Miami.
Inter Miami. They lost in the playoffs last season. I think that the Timbers, they're kind of rebuilding now in a way because they just let go of, well, don't really let go. More like he decided to depart. Evander left the squad, and now he's playing for Cincinnati. And you know what? I think the Timbers, they could make the playoffs, but we'll see.
All right, well, Jack, thanks for hopping on. I know it's been a while since we've done one of these, but it's always nice to have you aboard, so thank you very much.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Jackson. Looking forward to another episode soon.
All right, well, we will definitely have to reconnect again once we officially know the NCAA tournament field in a couple of weeks, and then the Stanley Cup and NBA playoff fields as well in a couple of months. But Jack, we'll talk to you again soon.
Okay, thanks, Jackson. Talk to you soon.